So Tumbbad is back in theaters, and to celebrate this great film that came out of Indian cinema, I went to watch it once again. As I was watching the film, I realized that Vinayak, played by Sohum Shah, is quite an interesting character, and a dedicated episode of Analyzing Evil can be made on that character. So, welcome to the fourth episode of Analyzing Evil. Another reminder that this series is inspired by The Vile Eye, but here on my channel, I cover characters from Indian cinema. Now, the main theme of Tumbbad is greed. The film opens with a quote by Mahatma Gandhi that goes like, "The world has enough for everyone's needs, but not enough for everyone's greed." The film opens in the year 1918, in which Vinayak and his brother Sadashiv are the illegitimate children of the village patriarch. Both of them, along with their mother, live outside the village, away from all the luxuries that Vinayak thinks that he is the rightful heir of. They are also given the responsibility of taking care of the grandmother who is cursed with immortality. From a very young age, Vinayak feels that it's unjust that him, his brother, and their mother are forced to live a life of seclusion on the outskirts of Tumbbad and are not given all the luxuries that they deserve. Vinayak also has an obsession with finding out where the treasure is hidden inside the Vada. After the death of his father and the accidental death of his brother, while his mother plans on leaving the village forever, Vinayak is fixated on going to the Vada and trying to find out where the treasure is. Vinayak's mother makes him promise her that he would never come back to Tumbbad. But as the film cuts to 15 years later, we see Vinayak, now an adult, coming back to Tumbbad in search of the gold. This gives us our very first glimpse into Vinayak's psyche, that even after 15 years, the obsession with gold and treasure never went away. But at this point in the film, it's not the greed that brings him back to Tumbbad, rather the obsession that he has had since he was a kid with the gold and the treasure, and the feeling that he is the rightful owner of it now. As we see Vinayak getting gold from Tumbbad and amassing wealth in the city, it feels like Vinayak has actually found the treasure but does not bring all of it back to the city in order to avoid suspicion. But as we later find out that Vinayak has to risk his life every single time to get these few gold coins, we realize that his greed is now at the forefront. A man is willing to risk his life again and again just so that he can live a life of luxury. As we see at one instance in the film, when Vinayak's business partner Raghav tries to trick Vinayak into staying back in the city and goes to Tumbbad himself, Vinayak, instead of stopping him, manipulates the old guy into going inside the womb and facing Hastar all alone. Raghav, unaware of the existence of Hastar, walks straight into Vinayak's trap. That is the first glimpse we are given of Hastar, and we get to see how dangerously Vinayak gets the gold every single time. Once again, emphasizing his greed, but this time it also shows us how cunning Vinayak can be, that he can manipulate his own friend in order to keep the gold as well as the secret of it all to himself, because he believes that he is the rightful owner of it all. But we do get a glimpse of remorse in Vinayak's eyes right before he puts Raghav out of his misery. After the death of Raghav, the film takes another 15-year time jump, and we see an old Vinayak who has amassed a lot of wealth and doesn't need to go to Tumbbad anymore. In one scene, we see Vinayak showing his son how much gold and cash he actually has, which impresses his son, but Vinayak tells him that it's not enough, further showing how greedy Vinayak still is. His greed is also highlighted from the fact that despite having so much wealth, Vinayak trains his son as if the sole purpose of his life is to steal gold from Hastar. Another flaw of Vinayak's character is emphasized by the fact that as he starts to get richer and richer, he gets distant from his own family and starts to indulge in all sorts of immoral activities. Even though Vinayak has a lot of wealth and doesn't really go to Tumbbad anymore, the news that the Vada in Tumbbad will be occupied by the government once again compels him to go back to Tumbbad and steal some more gold, but this time with his son. Sohum Shah has recently revealed that there were some scenes that were shot that would have given us a glimpse into the type of bond that Vinayak had with his son, but for the sake of this analysis, I'll take whatever we are shown in the film. We see that Vinayak is sort of a distant father, caring but distant, who only grows fond of his son after the son proposes a plan to steal all of Hastar's gold at once. This might imply that Vinayak's fondness of his son only comes out when his son suggests an idea that caters to his greed for more gold. But as we see towards the end of the film, when Vinayak finds himself trapped inside the womb with his son, surrounded by a lot of Hastar, Vinayak perhaps takes a moment to reflect on his life so far and comes to the conclusion of sacrificing his own life to save his son. But as the film reaches its final moments, we find out that even though Vinayak sacrificed himself, his objective was not to tell his son to not be like him. Rather, he offers his son all of the gold that he has finally stolen from Hastar, implying that his motivation to sacrifice his own life was not to save his son from the moral bankruptcy, rather, to make sure that his son lives a life of abundance. But his son, having witnessed the horrors of greed, not only through his father but also through Hastar, who attacks his own clones for a doll of wheat, chooses to leave all the gold behind and puts his father out of his misery once and for all. While young Vinayak left Tumbbad with the determination that one day he would come back for the gold, his son Pandu shuts the door behind him, having decided to never come back to this hell of greed that consumed his father. Vinayak's story also draws parallels with the story of Hastar, who, in the pursuit of gold as well as all the food on the planet, was attacked by his own siblings, and had the goddess not intervened, would have probably died at the hands of his brothers and sisters.